Okay, to celebrate 100 subs, thank you all for the support. We're going to do another build order guide. We're going to take all of our territories so that we have none left to pick, and we're going for a 2-factory tank opener. So the buildings we want to go for immediately, 2 factories. Make sure that they're building tanks, and then a gas is our 3rd building, and we build 2 barracks. Then we can send all our things out to cap and start expanding on the map. The play is that we're going to wait for our 3rd and 4th tank to start and then build a 3rd barracks. The barracks are important because we want to keep infantry being produced so that we can expand quicker. Infantry are generally like the best capping unit. Infantry are commandos. You can mix it up. You can see what you need, and if you need to be scouting, maybe you build commandos. It's really flexible in how you approach the game with this build. Really what we want to do is we're going to get 4 tanks, and then we're going to go out and try to scout, start capping, maybe try to head towards a gas if we think our opponent would be taking a particular gas. Tanks are really good at sniping buildings, and of course refineries count as a building here. So once these 1st and 2nd tanks finish, and once we see that the 3rd and 4th tank are building in the factory, we can put down another barracks. It's important not to build the 3rd barracks right now, like we could afford it, because it's going to cost some money to build the tanks, like you can see. So our money goes down, we're just going to sit on these 2 tanks. You could play with this, you could send out the 2 tanks immediately if you want. I generally like to wait for the 4 tanks to finish and then send them out. They could do more damage in a pack of 4. They have more vision slightly. But again, there's a lot of flexibility in how you approach this. Once you build your 3rd barracks and the 3rd and 4th tank finish, we can switch our factories to start building whatever we need. If we need artillery or SAMs, we can do either of those. So here we go. We just got 220 money, so we put down our 3rd barracks and continue to pump out infantry. You can see that technically our 2 barracks weren't really building for a split second, so we could have waited a little bit longer. It's not a huge deal. In a real game, this 3rd barracks would actually be building. It wouldn't just insta-build, but that's just the sandbox making it look like it can. So once these 4 tanks finish, generally what I'm going to do is I'll drive the tanks to some gas that I think the opponent will have, or the general location that the opponent is, or start capping if there's not really much the tanks can do. So once these 4 tanks are done, the whole key of the game now is to use these 4 tanks, get as much value as we possibly can out of them. The units we build after the tanks can be some combination of artillery, maybe if we see our opponent going for a lot of infantry, or if we see like quick helicopters, quick strikers, quick air units, or we suspect there's going to be air units, we could make SAMs instead. Or of course you could have 1 factory making SAMs, 1 factory making artillery. So different things we can do with the tanks. Like mentioned, we can go snipe gases. Maybe we realize there's like defensive barricades here and we can't really get through. We can just always cap with these tanks. We don't really want to split them into 3 territories. If this ever happens, you can group up your tanks again and then start to cap. They cap quicker when they're capping as a group. But tanks are very decent capping units, so the worst case that happens with these things is that you just cap spots on the map. Key is you don't want to lose these tanks. We possibly could go for more tanks out of these factories if we want to follow up with more tanks, if it makes sense, but it's very important to note that as you get more tanks on the field and if they're moving a lot, you're going to need to think about building a 2nd gas relatively quickly. There's always the chance that you can experiment this instead of going 3rd barracks. If you want to go really aggressive, you just continue pumping tanks and then build a 2nd gas. Totally up to you and how you do this. There's a lot of flexibility from this point. We generally wouldn't want to be sending our artillery just to cap away from our opponent, but you get the idea. We can group it all up and we take it from here. Maybe you build more barracks because you want more infantry. Maybe you go for an airport, whatever. At this point in the game, multitask the tanks, cap with all your infantry, and you're in a game of line war. So it's really up to you in how you play it from here. One thing to note is when you build the path away from your factories at first, generally try to use like 2 wide lines at least, potentially even 3. And if you're gonna move command these tanks or something, we can haste the tanks, right? So we have the boot moving, so the tanks will actually move quicker. And this way, we can get around the opponent's army if we want to flank. Real key is try to keep these tanks as long, like as alive as long as you possibly can. You can see how our energy usage is going right now. So with 4 tanks, you can definitely afford it off of 1 gas. You can probably stretch this to 6 tanks. Again, take a look at it, see what works for you, and good luck. Enjoy. I hope this works out on ladder. Hope it's helpful. Thank you again, everyone, for the support and the 100 subs. It's much appreciated. And yeah, good luck. Let's see how it goes. GLHF. Peace.